You have created a huge impact for employee engagement through your new payment structure. However, in order to continue growing your vision both internally and externally, you must ensure that you are sustainable as a business. Today, you have asked how Gravity Payments can stay true to its core values of employee happiness and employee equality whilst achieving a profit of $5 million by 2018. And our answer is Down to Earth, which is a strategy which will focus on the 4 key parties which determine success for your company. These being price, as your CEO, your top level management, lower level employees, and as the latter two are the parties that ultimately keep clients happy, your clients as well.
In informing the strategy, we looked at your current position and how our proposal can enhance this. Currently, Price is really occupied with his other engagements outside of the office, and we propose that he spends more time in the office and leads from the top. Secondly, your senior management are unhappy with the current payment structure, and we propose that you buy them into the company. Thirdly, your employees are currently gaining a lot more income than the minimum wage, and we propose that you augment this minimum wage by aligning their views with your strategy. And lastly, we propose that you enhance your customer acquisition and appeal to SMEs. By following this proposal, the benefit to you is threefold. Firstly, you'll be able to increase the number of staff, your retention of staff by 8%. You'll be able to grow your customer acquisition and happiness and confidence by 12%. And finally, you'll exceed your target by gaining $5.1 million of profit by 2018.
Let's consider the analysis which drives these proposals. So a guiding principle which we've considered across both our strategies and our analysis is that you have these core values, mainly driven by price, in relation to wanting to secure employee happiness and employee equality. Now, these core values, while they've created some tensions within some of your stakeholders, we recognize that these are inherently important to you, and you can't deviate from these by removing the payment structure. Ultimately, this would be too far removed from what your core visions are as the leader of your company. Another consideration which guides our analysis and our strategies is the 4 key players that I mentioned earlier. So these are price, your top management, and your lower level employees. Now, our analysis and our strategies will focus on each of these three key parties, as well as how they interlink with your clients, as well as drawing upon these as we discuss our strategies.
In our analysis, we discovered 2 key issues facing your business. The first is that you must maintain the remuneration you pay to your employees. The reason for this is that you've currently paid your employees this extra wage for 8 months. Accordingly, these employees have taken on new financial commitments and changed their lifestyle. In addition, for the past 8 months, you've benefited from great media coverage, and if you were to change your employee remuneration, this would reflect incredibly badly on your company and Price himself. Accordingly, you must make the most with your positive employees and your positive image.
The second key issue that we identified is surrounding your top level management and how they haven't been included in the pay rise scheme. So ultimately, this has left these employees feeling left out and ultimately feeling underappreciated by Price. This has been driven by the fact that they're not involved in the new payment system, and also due to the increased workload which has occurred with Price increasingly being engaged with new ventures such as his book signings, such as his book writing. So ultimately, if this continues, you risk losing these top management who have a wealth of experience, which would ultimately allow you to grow as a company.
In light of this, we also decided to take a closer look at your customer. Your customer is a traditional SME, and what this means is that they seek reliability in the products that they purchase. In addition, they also are driven by cost and seek to have the lowest cost product given its functional excellence. Additionally, as individuals, they are financially stressed. Usually these are small companies pioneered by one individual, and accordingly, they gain affiliation to individuals facing the same financial stresses that they also face.
So ultimately, with this analysis in mind, we propose our strategy down to earth, and as I mentioned, we'll be focusing on each of these parties in turn. So first of all, let's look at Price. Now ultimately, we recommend that Price shifts his focus towards back towards the company. He's been out of the office more and more frequently, and we recommend that he increases the amount of time which he's in the office over time.
The rationale for this is that he must lead from the top and be an inspirational figure in the office. He will ease the tension amongst the office individuals, and that's going to benefit the tension that you currently face.
The second party that we want to look into is your senior management. Ultimately, we recognise here that there has been a crisis in their confidence towards Price as a leader. In respect of this, we recommend a crisis response approach, which will involve 4 key areas. First, you must respond to the crisis through communication, restrict its impact for your senior management employees, remediate it for them, and also find ways to review yourself for your future success to avoid issues like this arising again.
The rationale behind this is that the senior managers play a vital role in your company. They play an important link between Price as the CEO and the employees and accordingly your clients. Accordingly, you must keep them happy and address the issues that make them unhappy. You must also take an active stand to retain them and also ensure that you hear the issues that they have.
Thirdly, we want to consider employees. Ultimately, what we recommend you do here is make your vision more clear to them, which will occur through the utilization of easily accessible strategic trees in your company, and also through emailing them with a response to the issues which have occurred. Secondly, we recommend that you share insights across your employees and with a collaboration structure. These are ultimately qualitative recommendations which will augment the new wage structure.
The rationale behind this is that your employees are already very happy with your company. If you align their activities with the strategic impact that you see, you will gain a bigger impact on your company. In addition, by ensuring that they share their insights and publications that they found with each other, they'll be more productive.
And finally, we want to consider your client base and what you can do for them. So what we recommend here is that you communicate with new potential clients through expos and through your current clients with a wide email newsletter, which will focus on employee stories and how your new payment structure and our recommendations ultimately have improved their life. Ultimately, this will allow you to express your values to your clients and get engagement from them.
The rationale behind this is that you work in an incredibly competitive industry. These small to medium-sized enterprises will gain affiliation with the employees that you currently have and the benefits that you've given to them as a company. By showcasing these stories to these SMEs, you'll gain affiliation with them and be able to be competitive and cultivate that loyalty that you require. Thank you. I'll now pass you on to Cameron and Taylor, who will walk you through implementation and finance.
Thank you, Ria and Renee. So today we've proposed to you our strategy, Down to Earth, which is about addressing these 4 key parties which you need in order to successfully adapt to your new structural change in your business.
So the first arm that we'll be looking at is how we can leverage Price to lead the changes in the organization and integrate him back into the everyday life of the business, leading from the front. So there are 2 steps to this. The first is we would like to see Price returning to the office for 2 days a week in 2016, potentially on the Fridays and Mondays, so he can have more communication with the senior managers and show that he still cares about the business. He hasn't abandoned it for his other activities. The second part of this is to adopt a strong open door policy where any worker in the business can come to approach him, either physically or through email, about any concerns that they are having with the business. So this is how we'll be dealing with the Price situation. Now let's take a look at the senior management.
So for our senior management, the first 2 steps of our response was to firstly react and secondly to restrict. In order to react, to our senior management, we want to organise a formal dinner in which you bring your senior management group together and you firstly apologise for not including them within the change in the structure and keeping them informed and outlining and explaining your vision, why you made these changes and where you see the business moving forward, and hoping to get them aligned with this new change that you're bringing into the business. With this, we also want to outline some procedures and how they can review and evaluate this, which I will go through in more detail later. Secondly, we also want you to restrict. And by restrict, we mean we want you to be transparent to your senior management and keep this communication out further from the dinner. So this will include a weekly email out to your senior management noting developments and the continued path along moving forward with your new decision and this new value that you want to drive through your business.
So the next two steps are to remediate and to review. Under remediate, we recommend that by apologising to these managers, rather than giving them increased salaries, you include them as shareholders in the company with an initial small share offer of $10,000 worth of shares and giving them the option to buy more. This both integrates them more into the company to make them feel more involved and also deals with the problems you've been having in attracting external shareholders to the company with low valuations and shareholders leaving. This approach will leave you more integrated and have a central core of aligned shareholders.
The final step will be reviewing for your senior management. So there's two ways we want to do this. You've already had this dinner where you've had the opportunity to communicate your values to them, and now you want to be allowing them the opportunity to give this individual feedback. So firstly, you have your open door policy, which they can utilise to individually come and see you. And then you can respond individually to any queries they have or whether they're not aligned and how they can progress in the business and move towards your aligned values. Secondly, we also suggest you have an open feedback box. So if they're not confident about just coming individually to you, they can express their views anonymously. And then you can respond to these through your weekly mailer we discussed in the transparency of the restrict part of your response.
So this is how we'll be dealing with the senior managers. Now let's take a look at all of the employees in general. The first step that we want to take is to grow vision trees throughout your offices and throughout your employees. This means that we'll be creating, for example, the vision tree we have here. We have the company vision of thriving and not surviving. You link this to the team goals that the teams and senior managers are working towards, and then the individuals, how those individuals can contribute, and what pathways they can look to progress throughout the company. With these trees, we want them on posters on the walls. We want them on the swipe cards that you get to come into the office and in all the different places the employees will be going, so they're reminded of the vision they're working towards and of the other opportunities that they can continue to aim towards as they move up through the company. It's not just that $70,000 minimum wage, there's so much more to the company that they have to look forward to.
Also, to add to this, we'll also be having an engaging insight section in which each week, each employee, lower level employee, will have the opportunity to participate by providing tips to other employees on how to use our software or provide more efficient ways to work in the business. This way, each employee feels like they're adding value for other employees in their workplace. Each email throughout the week will be done by one employer. They'll have 3 key facts of different ways they can improve their work time and efficiencies in the business, and just a fun fact to make it more culturally a fun and more inclusive sharing activity.
And so finally, how are we going to interact with our customers? There are 2 different ways that we're going to do this. The first is looking for new customers, and the second is growing continued engagement with the customers that we have. With regards to the new customers, with our current customer acquisition channels and with the industry expos that we recommend you move towards, we recommend that you take your regular staff along with your sales team so they can discuss the stories of how the new changes you've been making have changed their lives and are growing to change the world. The rationale behind this is that you can continue to engage with these SMEs in face-to-face meetings and communicate the entire vision of your company, that you don't just care about your bottom line, you also care about the people who work for you and the people you're working for. This is then continued with the continued engagement.
With our continued engagement, we want to be looking at reaching out to our current client base by sending an email out to them once a month, which has some stories about our staff and our values. So looking at how their salary raise, which has been promoted, in the papers, and looking at how it's helping them build a family, pay off their mortgage, ways in which it's developing your good workforce environment, and how it's a great place for you to work and promote the business. And through this, you're extending it to align with the values of also your customers who like this new business format you're bringing in.
In terms of the impacts this will have on your company, we've looked at 3 key levels. One is how, with this increased motivation and strategic planning, you can increase the efficiency of your staff. We've estimated this to come at 8% year on year across the next 3 years. The second is through increased customer confidence that they're not going to be facing increased costs from your product, and from increased acquisition with regards to engaging with them more frequently. In terms of the profit for your bottom line, although you've lost $2 million in profit through these increased wages, we estimate that you can make this back by 2017 through increased productivity and through increased customer acquisition, ultimately reaching a profit of $5.1 million by 2018.
Some of the key risks we considered in our strategy was whether Dan Price was willing to come back to the office and wanted to continue with his book engagement and wider promotion. And if he is not, we'd recommend that you bring in a new one of the senior managers and promote them up so that they're taking a more looking after the workforce senior management role in the business. And secondly, we also consider if the senior managers are still unhappy and not feeling like they're having the opportunity to give feedback, then we suggest one-on-one individual sessions in which Dan Price speaks to them one-on-one and really gets a good communication flowing between senior management and himself. So that's a conclusion. That concludes our implementation and financials. I'll now pass back to Ria and Renee to conclude.
So today you asked how Gravity Payments can stay in tune with its core values of employee happiness and employee equality and grow profitability to $5 million by 2018. And our answer is down to earth, a strategy which will be focusing on price, your top level management, your lower level employees, and your clients.
Our proposal in relation to price is to have them in the office in an increased amount. Our proposal in regards to your senior management is to ensure that they gain a little bit more happiness by tying them into the company. Our proposal in regards to your employees is to unlock their potential and happiness with their increased pay by also aligning their impact with your strategic vision. And our proposal in relation to your clients is to communicate what you do as a company and make sure these stories gain affiliation with them and gain customer loyalty. Thank you. I now open the floor to question and answer.
And you guys think that you all agree that the approach taken by Price to increase the minimum wage to 70,000 is the correct approach?
We looked at Price's choice to increase the minimum wage to 70,000, and we noticed that we could not make a change to this because it had an impact on both your employees and the company itself and Price's reputation. It had gone on for 8 months, so if you were to reduce your wages, they would be financially disadvantaged, and the media would not be very happy with this, and Price's reputation would accordingly be hit as well. So we saw that this is necessary for you to continue with this new minimum wage and make the most of the situation that you currently have.
I hear a lot of communication. I think a lot of your proposals are centered around communication and engagement with your stakeholders, whether they're senior management, employees, or customers. And so a lot of the answers betting on the fact that they may buy in and align with what Price thinks is correct. What if they don't?
So what we've already seen in the last 8 months from this new price change is you've had this surge of increase in 75% of your customers. So obviously from that, we're seeing that people do align with these values and there is been strong benefits from his approach. So what our proposal was saying is that you're going to take these benefits and you're really going to address them throughout your key parties who haven't necessarily gotten on board as much, such as your senior management.
What I'm still struggling with is from the client's perspective. I totally get the alignment of values, and I think that's a very sort of positive development and certainly worth pushing. But as a customer, my biggest concern is still about the price, how much I'm paying. And I don't understand how you can pay all your junior staff more. You're also proposing to increase the amount you pay your senior management through, I think various sort of bonuses or certainly equity as well. How is that not going to affect me as a customer?
So first, just to clarify with the compensation to the senior managers, so that's a one-off share offer of $250,000, so that's just one-off, and then they can choose to buy more. And that $250,000, we think that can either be funded by the business or perhaps by Dan Price, who's having to buy back 30% of the company shares, and we would leave that up to him to make that call. In terms of how that's going to affect our margins overall, though, with the increased wages, could you bring up the profit slide, please, Dal? So unfortunately, there was very little information in the case about what your margins are and that type of thing. We've estimated that with the current changes, you'd be dropping to a $200,000 profit due to the current changes in this year. And then the way we've looked to grow your profit continually is either primarily through increased scale, so through the number of customers you can get through. We also did consider something about raising prices in terms of trying to get a premium offer out there for the customers who are aligned with that. Again, unfortunately, there was just so little information in the case about what our pricing strategy is like that we didn't propose that directly, but we think that would be a good alternative if your margins are still not high enough, because we think we can command a premium with the extra engagement that we're offering.
Sorry, can I still go back to my earlier question? Do we really think that a surge in the number of customers that registering, not necessarily giving business to price, but registering with the business, is an indication of that the customer is willing to pay probably more and in alignment with in sharing price strategy? And also, if we're actually going to talk about like the senior management, because the customer, okay, they can actually switch to other suppliers and all that, and if they don't like, right? But the senior management, who is actually making their own career and earnings in the company, they actually have to invest a lot to share price, vision, and goal. Do we really think that that's actually that easy a sell to them?
So yeah, we see that these top level employees, their success is driven by the business success. Their wages are driven by how successful Gravity Payments is. And we don't actually see your values as being totally unaligned with being profitable. As we've mentioned, you can drive scale. So buying into the vision is really important, but we also see that the vision can also actually help your bottom line.
In relation to the customers that you mentioned, we saw the 75% surge wasn't actually due to a price increase that you'd already had. The surge was because they saw that your vision and what you do is aligned with what they actually feel. And so if you maintain that price point, it's an indication that you can continue having a larger customer base and have that 12% increase that we mentioned earlier.
Isn't it a kind of halo effect? And when they realize that the price is far higher than those products provided by the other service providers, they can just easily walk away. And given the fact that all these employees are now given far higher wages than the market price, they just don't have any motivation to work harder.
The employees don't have any motivation to work harder. So we propose that because your employees are happy with what you do as a company, if you show them the impact they can make through that strategic tree, throughout the offices and their keychain, they can see how their one task achieves that strategic vision, and because they're getting paid enough money now, they're going to be wanting some actualization in the work that they do. And we see that this is enough to motivate these employees.
Sorry, could you please repeat the first part of the question with regards to the customers?
Well, the same concern. If I were the customer of this company, I may have been attracted by this gimmick, equality, equity in terms of wages for almost all the junior staff. But then as time goes by, I will look at the products and services provided by this firm, and then when I compare the prices and the quality of services, I may just say to myself, I have made a wrong decision. And that's why what matters is how you can make, like what you guys have said, this pay rise sustainable, i.e. the employees are really motivated to deliver services which are better than the other competitors. But given the fact that overnight they are given more pay, if I were one of them, I may not have that sort of motivation to do more because, well, that's been given to me.
So one of the main things we were looking at in terms of that retention was by trying to get the engagements with the actual staff throughout our facilities. So for example, if they get monthly updates on, for example, how the staff are doing, how they've managed to, for example, buy a house because of these schemes, and keep engaged with them. Maybe our clients, our staff rather, can go through, meet with them more frequently, buy them dinners, engage with them more often. That's the channel that we're looking for. So it's for that interaction with the clients and to show that we actually care about things more than just the money and the bottom line, and we want to look after them in the future, just like how we look after our staff. So that was the primary point we were looking for with the retention.
If there is no way back, if there's no U-turn, we should try and consider other factors to motivate them, i.e. well, now they are given a higher pay, but what happens next year, the year after next year? Maybe, well, we have to think about performance bonus so that they will still be motivated by other factors. Otherwise, I'm far older than you guys, and I have been working for more than 20 years. I won't have that sort of motivation if I am given the higher pay than the market price, and I will just hang in there and that's it.
We did acknowledge that some of your employees did mention that they said that they didn't know if they deserved this raise, and we saw that as a concern. What we noticed is that employees first need the wage to make sure they can live a lifestyle where they have the necessities. Beyond that, they want work that they can enjoy and do work that can create an impact. They also want to work in an environment where they can communicate with their other employees and it isn't too hierarchical. So our proposal looked at first giving them a path to impact to see how their job actually impacts on their strategic vision for a company that doesn't just look to make profit, but also looks to make a change in the world. Secondly, we wanted to get them to interact with each other and share ideas and insights, so that'll give some cultural affiliation with each other as well.
And in terms of the long-term, the remuneration that they're looking for, that's one of the reasons we're suggesting that the senior managers have the option to buy in to the share packages as well. To make them part of the company, they're even more integrated in terms of our profits. So the more profit the company earns directly relates to their salary. So it is, if you will, a performance bonus, but it's just tied through the shares rather than paid out as an extra bonus salary. We think that increasing the wages higher on these senior managers would more or less reduce the impact of the initial minimum wage that we were setting in the first place, because it just maintains the same inequality gap that was there before. So we think going through the shares is a better method of putting that forward.
Do you think $10,000 of shares is enough to motivate a senior manager? And then going on from that, I don't know how big you think this management group is that will participate in the management equity plan, but will that potentially affect the nimbleness of the company and the ability to make decisions? At the moment, it's basically the Mr. Price show who can go with his instincts, and it's been successful so far. But obviously, the more people you involve as shareholders, the more accountability you have, and the potential for people to actually disagree and potentially block things. So how do you propose to address that?
So given that you do have a very small management team, we find that giving them all an ownership share shouldn't detract from your nimbleness and agility that you currently benefit from. By having them buy into the company, it addresses that unhappiness that they currently face. And having, going back to what I said a little earlier about you need that base wage to ensure that you can live a lifestyle. Beyond that, you want to work for a company that you know you're making a direct impact, and also have a company, be involved with a company that also looks to take care of you and also the other staff. By giving these senior managers who already earn that high level wage the buy into your company, their viewpoints are tied into the success of the company as well. And we see that this should be enough to sort of tide over the issues that they currently face.
What do you think are the key risks of your proposal?
So some of the key risks that we propose that the senior managements would still remain unhappy. So the way we addressed this is through how we can keep communication individually between Dan Price and his current senior management group and keep them more involved. Also, that agrees to the share price, the buy-in of shares and bringing them back into that. And another risk that we did consider was the clients leaving and going to other providers, and that's why we wanted to maintain that same price at the moment, so that they currently don't want to leave for competitors who are also the same price as us.
What about legal risk? Your minority shareholders complaining already for raising the current employee's salary. You're potentially increasing more salary to your senior management, diluting his shareholdings, and potentially making this even more unprofitable, or risk of more unprofitable.
So our understanding is that one of the shareholders, Dan Price's brother, has actually filed the lawsuit to get rid of his 30% of the shares. So that will be eliminated from the picture, and we see the 30% of shares going back to Dan Price, where he would either, as I mentioned earlier, look to potentially donate the shares to the senior managers or give it back to the company to distribute through to the senior managers. So we don't see a legal conflict there, as our understanding from the case is that the 30% of the shares from the minority shareholders have already been passed back to Dan Price.
In addition, it's not uncommon to see senior managers get an equity stake in a company that they work for. It's a common tactic to ensure they buy into the success of the company as well.
What about Mr. Price's time if and when he comes back? He seems to be key to all of this. We want him to re-engage with the business. He's become a bit too much of a media figure, and yet we've got an open door policy, and anyone and everyone can come in and have a chat and express their feelings. We want him to re-engage in the business, not basically have cups of coffee with all the staff and make them feel warm and cuddly. So how are we going to make him use his time efficiently and profitably?
Absolutely. So we'd probably start it off as an open door for anyone, and if there is an issue with him spending too much time just talking to staff, at first that is important. So we do want to have him communicating and bringing him back down to the ground floor and working with our employees. But maybe if this becomes too much and he's not actually working too much, you could start bringing in your senior management, because he's also outlined his vision to the senior management, and then you could have them speaking to other senior managers rather than him all the time.
But that obviously increases the workload on senior managers who are already feeling slightly underpaid for the hard work that they do. So it tends to perpetuate the same problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that ties back into how we want to build that top management engagement. If they're really aligned with the cause, they should be feeling happier to answer those kind of inquiries. And just tying into what Taylor said, it's something that there will probably be a majority of issues at the beginning, and these should ease off over time as things get answered.
Sorry, time. Pretty much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.